how do we minimize the amount of bullshit that we put up with from other people? When I was going to come in here and make this video, and I was thinking about saying, how do we live without others' bullshit affecting us in our lives? But I realized before I even started that that's nearly impossible. And the only way to avoid, dealing with other people's problems is to escape society completely. There's really no way to do that in today's world. So being realistic, all of us have to deal with other people. And I don't see that as, I do not see that as a bad thing in any way, because I know that sometimes we mistake symbiosis with each other, I guess, with being codependent or not being independent enough. Having to rely on other people, sometimes we see that as a weakness. And so the man's man tries to be independent, he wants to be able to be self-sufficient, and to do everything on his own. And that can sometimes cause a little bit of animosity towards those who maybe need a handout. I see a lot of people who say, well, I worked for mine and I'm doing my own thing. But, everybody else should deal with their own. And otherwise, a very narrow black and white view that it seems like a lot of people have about everything. That you're either with us or against us. You're either for or against a particular policy or a law, or for or against a certain culture or race or religion. And that nobody can just have an opinion that I want to live my life and fuck your idea. I don't care about it. It's almost as if people have been forcing ideas down each other's throats. And so I'm going to give you an example. So living with the bullshit around us is something that all of us pretty much have to deal with. And even though we can't avoid it, and for example, we have a friend that maybe annoys us to no end, and we cannot stand their values, we don't agree with anything, and we don't get along generally, so we basically ditch the friendship. It makes no sense to keep a friend that's not a friend, and I guess each individual has to define what that means to be a friend, but and how much they're willing to tolerate. Some people are a lot more, hey, I'm not going to put up with this shit, so screw you, you're either on my level or you're gone. Other people are more acceptant and tolerant, and they'll have a whole wide range of friends who have varying, relationships, sometimes angry fights and whatnot, especially when you're younger, for example. You're in school, and you'll have a friend that you're fighting with, and then you're friends again, and you're fighting with. As an adult, there's just no time for that shit. We want friends, and we want people, not that are just going to be there when we need them, but that we want to be there for as well. So, what I was kind of trying to get at was not that, that we can avoid the bullshit as much as we want by deciding who we interact with, but that only goes so far. Because in the workplace, let's say, we may have coworkers we disagree with. Now, there is an option to get out of that as well. You can quit your job and go work for yourself. And this is the situation that I'm in, basically. I couldn't work with people very well. I mean, I can get along with people and I can work as a team, but I found that a lot of the people I worked with had no work ethic, and I like to work hard and I like to, do my best at things, but I also don't like being told what to do if it's a flawed version. I'm very particular about how I like to do things. And so it's not that I'm not a team player, it's just that I'm very stubborn about the way I like to do stuff. But open if someone has a better idea. I'm not the kind of person who always wants to be a leader. See, that's a complete different thing. I'm actually very indecisive. Like, for example, when it comes to my wife and I, neither one of us can decide what we're going to do. I don't know. And that's how a lot of people are. So it's not a matter of being a control freak, is what I'm saying. It's a matter of just, hey, I have to deal with my own life and my own situations, and I'm going to make decisions for that. But something I was thinking, people who, even though we can decide who to interact with, there are certain situations where we can't avoid it, especially when we see the way that other people behave online or advertise. An example is I get these emails from these groups, and I've mentioned this before. They're like it's called Transformation into the New Paradigm, and it's like this 5D thing, and they use quantum a lot, and find your true self and your life path and all this. And I've mentioned it before. They send me these emails about scalar energy and healing and all these different methods that I look into and say, hey, this is obviously a charlatan trying to rip people off. So dealing with the bullshit of people trying to bullshit other people, even if you try to avoid it, it's kind of hard to ignore when you see it. So I got an email from them a couple days ago, and it said something to the effect of, this lady's holding this seminar. It's an online seminar, and they're telling you how to basically reverse aging, is what they said. It's reverse aging. She said she's taken, decreased her age by 20 years, through this bullshit program or whatever. Next thing you know, it'd be stuffing her back up in the womb or something. I mean, come on, get real. You see what's happening, and you can't avoid it. You know that there are a bunch of people getting pulled into this saying, oh, I'm getting older. I want to grow down. I want to lose years off my life. And buying into these complete bullshit charlatan scams, whether or not the people believe it themselves or not. And so I use that as kind of like you see this happening to other people and you think, how can I avoid it? In other words, how can I just say whatever, caveat emptor, buyer beware, screw those people, as opposed to, say, making a video exposing it, like I did with, say, the scalar energy thing. I can't help but want to help people who are getting ripped off or, that others are claiming to help. And that's one of the things that annoys me the most is this whole self-help community, reality, bullshit, create your own reality crap. I mean, it's all based in true principles that I completely agree with. You do manifest your own reality. You do create your own intention. You can heal through intention. You can completely change your life by the way you perceive the world around you. You can do these things. But not by buying somebody's book, not by going to somebody's course or buying a $5,000 pendant or anything else. It's all bullshit. Strip away all the clothing, all the research, all the robes, and just say, hey, what really matters? It's how we perceive the world around us. So that's how we deal with the bullshit. That's how we let the bullshit not affect us, is through practice. And I will say that I'm definitely not innocent of it. Whenever something bothers me or I end up getting intense about something, I instantly stop and ask myself why. And sometimes it's to do with the subject. More often it's a person who is purposely trying to provoke me, which so be it. But I love that because I've learned how to cope with that. In other words, I've learned how to recognize when people are pushing my buttons. Even though I've always known when people are pushing my buttons, at least now I don't have to buy into it. And even 5-6 years ago on YouTube, I bought into a couple bullshit arguments with people, whether they be online or in person with family, friends, or anybody I grew up around or that I've met since. There's always going to be somebody who's going to want to poke and prod at you and try to, find a chink in your armor. And the whole thing, the solution to this is to rip the fucking armor off and say, go ahead, I don't give a shit, you can kill me, And most people walk away from that. They don't know how to handle a situation where you're not willing to put up with their bullshit, where you can call it out without being frustrated, without being angry, without being hostile, to just say, you're full of shit. And just to know it. Or not even have to point it out, but, metaphorically to say, I know your game, I'm not buying into it. It's kind of like leaving with a kind word instead of getting the last word, being angry or something. When a person walks away from an argument and says, whatever you say, it's just one of those things that some people just cannot stand, but it's not a matter of winning, it's not a matter of being better, it's a matter of saying, I don't have to put up with bullshit, this is my life and the reality I live. So I can tell that my kids are coming, so I'm going to go. This seldom lasts very long when I'm making a video because they like to just intrude and come right in here, even though I told them I was making one. So, hi, how you doing? So have a wonderful day, and we'll be talking to you soon.